Time for sound design. In today's video, I'm gonna see if there's music left in the MC-303. So today I'm gonna explore the Roland MC-303, which was released in 1996, and it was the first groovebox by Roland that actually carried the name groovebox. And this groovebox, which is basically a rompler, so it's a sampled set of sounds with classic sounds, classic Roland sounds, a lot of 90s sounds. It's kind of a quirky box, and it's often loaded for being cheesy and just a rompler, and you have limited control over the sounds. But what I want to explore is if I sequence this from Ableton through MIDI and use some effects in Ableton and layer different sounds from this box into Ableton, if I can create something that feels contemporary and interesting. So besides the synth sounds, there are drum sounds in this box as well, and a lot of other sort of general MIDI sounds. But I'm gonna mostly focus on the first two banks in this machine. The first bank is called synthesizer, and the second one is called synth bass. So it's mostly synth sounds that I will focus on. Let's go to Ableton and I'll show you what I did. So here in Ableton, I have the session, which is 8 audio tracks that are recorded from the machine. And I used 4 MIDI tracks to sequence it. So this Soundscape consists of 8 tracks. The first 4 tracks are, each track is a separate chord, here in white, which is the same sound. Then in light blue, you have 2 melodic parts with 2 different sounds, and then in yellow, 2 textural parts with 2 different sounds. So in total, there are 5 sounds I used from the MC-303. For the first 4 chords, I used the sound from bank 1, number 30, the D50 Saw, and it sounds like this. And if you look at the MIDI clip that I used, these are the 4 chords that I sequenced from Ableton through a MIDI cable to the MC-303. So it's a D minor 7, a F major 7, a B flat major 7, and a G minor 7. And as you can see then, this is the recording. It's an 8-bar loop, and then I loop that. So it is continuous, and it sounds like this. This is the second chord, the F major 7, the B flat major 7, and the G minor 7. And in front of me I have a MIDI controller with faders, so I can easily fade between the different chords. I have another video, I'll link it down in the description, where I explain this technique of using faders to blend different tracks basically. And then I added some effects. So as you can see, there's a whole chain of effects. So there's a glue compressor, a chorus, a hybrid reverb, and an auto pen. So without the effects, it sounds like this. And then with effects. So the difference is subtle, but it gives it a bit more space and a bit more liveliness to it, a bit more movement. But at the same time, these 4 chords are really meant as the background sort of bed to this soundscape. Then going to sound number 2, which is from bank 2, number 11. So let me look that up here on the MC-303, and it should be this one. And this is called deep house bass, played an octave higher. So it's a very short sound. And then what I sequence from Ableton looks like this. So this is the actual MIDI file. So there's a lot going on here. The whole track is written in D minor. And as you can see, it goes from D1 all the way to G4. And it sounds like this. So if I take all the effects off, just what I recorded from the MC-303. So you can hear that it's spanning multiple octaves. There's some short kind of ratcheting kind of notes going on here at the end of each bar. And there's a steady pulse in C3 that just continues. And then towards the end, there's a bit of variation in the bar 7 and 8. What I did to this sound is quite a lot. So I added an LFO that modulates the gain of the track, so the volume. There's a delay, an auto pen, a reverb. That's it actually. So I'll play it again. Without the effects, it sounds like this. It's quite okay, but it's a bit one-dimensional. So with the effects, it sounds like this. and then with one of the chords. So here you can see that with like a very short sound, a lot of sort of, it's not very complex, but there's a lot going on in the MIDI file, and then with some delay and some panning, it really brings the sound to life. And I think especially the volume modulation also really helps, that it's not a constant volume, but it kind of goes in and out a little bit. Then for the next melodic layer, I actually used the same MIDI file, but I used a different sound on the machine. So what I did is I used the next sound from the same bank, number 12. And it sounds like this. And this one is called Deep Sine Bass. And yeah, it basically sounds like a sine wave. So it's very basic. And when I play that, so it's like that. And then with the effects, again, there's an LFO for the volume, a delay, an auto pan, and a reverb. So this is kind of the supporting layer for melody 1, and it plays lower in volume overall, and then I pan melody 1 a bit to the left and melody 2 to the right. So then if I play them together, so only one. So I basically doubled the melody with a different sound to create a bit more fullness in the track. Then going on to the textures. So I have two textures in this Soundscape. The first one is using the string sound. So this is the only sound that's not from bank 1 and 2, which is not a synth sound. So let me pull that up. So it's a pizzicato string sound. So it's a very short. And let me show you the MIDI clip that goes with it. So this is the MIDI clip for this sound. So as you can see, there's a lot of sort of at low volume, the E note. And then there's some chords and some very low sound here, all the way down to, what is it? G0. So let me play you what I recorded from the MC-303 without effects, and it sounds like this. So it's that E note, and then there's some chords and some really low chords, and it's an interesting idea, but it didn't really work. So what I did then is that I only took a portion out of this entire recording, and I looped that, and that's what ended up in the final piece. There's that E note with that one kind of chord, and then I also put a bunch of effects on it. So a saturator, a redux to lower the bit rate and the sample rate, and then a repetitor, which is a filter delay basically. By taking out only a portion of this, it becomes less, there's less variation. So it's mostly that kind of E note that sounds a bit hesitating. And then with some delay and bit reduction, it sounds more like, yeah, a texture to kind of support other elements. And then to the last layer of this Soundscape. And for this one, I used a synth sound again from bank 2, number 26, the JPMG Bass. Let me pull that up. So this is the sound. And then if we look at the MIDI clip, it's pretty straightforward. Played in a high octave, starting at D4 and then goes later to D3. And without the effects, it sounds like this. So it's a very basic kind of melody. But then, of course, I did a bunch of effects on this. So there is a low-cut EQ at 400, a Wanderer, which is a preset from the filtered delay section. And then there's a regular delay after that. And then a redux, which is quite strong, like it goes to 8 bits and a sample rate at 12.5 kilohertz. So then with effects, it sounds like this. So you really get that noise from the 8-bit reduction at the end. So all the two delays get kind of noisied up, all the tails get noisied, becomes noisy. So this is a perfect texture for the background. And together with the other texture. And a chord. And so on. So yeah, that's basically how this track is built up. There are 4 MIDI tracks and then there are 8 tracks of audio with effects from Ableton. So now that I have these 8 tracks of audio, I need to arrange it. And as I also discussed in an earlier video where I talk about how I make ambient soundscapes and use a MIDI controller to control the levels, the video that will be linked down in the description, that's how I'm gonna arrange this track. So I'm basically gonna hit record, play with the volumes of the different tracks, blend them together, and in that way create the arrangement on the fly. So going back to the question that I posed at the beginning of this video, is there music left in the MC-303? I think it is, especially if you don't use the sequencer, but if you MIDI sequence it from Ableton, record layer by layer, use a lot of effects, then there are definitely sounds in here that are usable. I will now play you the entire track. As always, keep making music. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.